Vincent Goodwell, and we're talking LeBron. He suffered his first major injury in his career this season, straining his groin, which sidelined him for 18 games. Since that injury, the Lakers went from 4th in the West to 10th, and now, according to reports, the team is concerned that it could keep him from leading them to the playoffs. Vince, how worried should LeBron and the Lakers be about missing the postseason?
I wouldn't say definitely worried or concerned, but 25 games left. LeBron usually starts to put on that sort of push, but at this point, year 16, 34, a lot of miles on his body. Can he afford to do that and risk more injury at this stage of his career? So I would say they should be a little concerned, but when you got the best player in the game on your team, and one of the most efficient players in the game on your team, I think they can make up 2.5 games relatively easy. The problem is that 8th seed, they ain't gonna be in the playoffs long, and that's not gonna look good for him no matter how many straight finals he's going to, because I can't think of the time we talking about over the break. When's the last time the best player in basketball missed the playoffs?
Yeah, Shaq, maybe Kobe.
Shaq had teams that made the playoffs, and then they were swept out of the playoffs.
But he wasn't the best player in the league at that point anymore.
There was a couple times early in his career. There was a couple times when you could make the argument. No, you're right. I almost. You ever had somebody say, like, well, that guy, I've always thought if you accuse somebody of being on steroids and they're not, it's the ultimate compliment, right? Like, you're so freakishly built that you must be. This is like the opposite of that. If you're saying, like, man, his groin must still be bad, what you're really saying is, man, LeBron James has slowed down. That's what the Lakers are telling us. And that's what we're talking about, like, during the break, which is, does he still have the ability to dial it up like he always has? Where, like, don't worry, I got this, I can carry the team. Because even early in the season, even when they were playing well and they were trending towards a top 3 seed, they were at the 4 seed before he got hurt. Even then, it was once every couple of games where LeBron looked like LeBron. And there was other parts of the game when he was just passing, facilitating, and let everybody else doing kind of the dirty business. I think this is a little bit of panic, which is we knew he was eventually going to get old. We thought it might be year 3 or year 4. We were accepting of it. But year 1 and year 2, he hasn't looked nearly like we thought he would look in person.
Is there something to be said, though? I mean, he's been back 5 games. He had a groin injury, so it's not like he's able to condition it and get himself in rehab in that game type of condition. He came back in those 5 games. He's averaging 23, 11, and 11. Like, I know his movements aren't the same. I know he's not initiating some of the attack and explosive. But don't you think that that's something that's going to come as he's trying to reintegrate himself back to actually playing games after an injury like that?
I do think it's premature to, after these 5 games, say he doesn't look like the same LeBron. Now, again, if you're saying it was happening before he got injured, that's a whole different thing. But this is too small of a sample size.
I mean, any other player on the planet, we would be like, oh, he missed 18 games. He's coming back from injury. Of course, he's not going to look exactly the same. I know we're used to him being superhuman.
He's not coming off an ACL. He's coming off a groin.
You know how I know. Groins
yeah, which you might be a little. I mean, like maybe he's hesitant. Maybe he's hesitant. But if it was still bothering him, why did he play in the All-Star game?
Well, he's not going to be as explosive as he was at 34. I mentioned it earlier. Look at the guys in his draft class. Dwayne Wade about to retire. Carmelo Anthony can't get in the league. Bosh is retired. You know, it happens. And all his extra playoff games, summer, Olympic games and things like that. You're right. For Lakers fans, look, LeBron is smart. Among all his other gifts, he's very smart. He signed a 4-year deal for a reason.
Absolutely.
Just in case I'm not what I used to be and I begin declining, let me get those 4 years max. So he's smart about that.
But I will say this. We have the same conversation, I feel, about LeBron and his teams the past couple of years around the All-Star break. This is a long season. It's hard to sustain that mental concentration when you don't have the physical gifts at your height to make up for that lack, sort of space or whatever. So I think he's going to come in the second half, 25 games left, and for a full-out sprint. The problem is the gap between he and the next best or most dependable player on the Lakers is so wide. Even his greatness can't make up for that if Kuzma or Ball or some of these other young players who've never had to play under this level of scrutiny have to perform every night between now and April. That's a lot
is
to
that
ask
comparable
guys.
to the Cleveland roster?
No,
last year?
those guys were just old. That's just a difference. Like Kevin Love, those guys were old. This is young and pressured.
I think this roster he has is better than what he had last year in Cleveland.
I agree with that.
But this is not the East. That's the problem.
I completely agree with both of what you guys said. That's one of the things we talked about in the summer, which is everybody says, I can't wait to play with LeBron. And I think the Lakers figured everybody's going to shoot a higher percentage because now you have a great passer setting you up. He commands a double team. The problem is that I'm not sure they took into account that now you're everybody else's biggest game. Now every game you go to in the NBA is not the same, right? Some games you put on cologne for, some games you don't. When LeBron comes to town, everybody's putting on cologne. It's a special night. The fans are there. It's just like Indy, right? Indy had nothing to play for. Right. They lost their best player for the year, devastating injury, and now they're chanting, "LeBron will trade you," right? Like everybody thinks,
you can
hey,
see it
everything's
with
better with. But
Doug, did you just say some games you put cologne on for and some games?
Doug put cologne
That's two
on.
Americans. Yeah, that's two Americans right there.
You put cologne every day?
Absolutely. You don't?
No.
Doug put
Okay,
cologne on
you must be a
American.
married man. It's a two. I don't know if there's two Americans or a married man.
I'm married. I put on cologne.
We're not going to worry about when Doug puts on cologne.
Not every day. Special days you put on cologne. Some days you just go out. Some days you shave. Some days you don't.
This should not surprise you about Doug Fitz.
I ain't showered in weeks. So
you posted well.
I tell you that.
Sit down.
Can you move that chair that way a little bit? Vince, you posed the question, when was the last time that the best player in the game missed out on the playoffs? If, in fact, the Lakers do miss out on the postseason, how does that impact LeBron's legacy?
That's a great question because I think his legacy, to a large degree, is set. The finals appearances mean more almost than the 3 championships when you think about it. You think when you talk about LeBron, you don't say 3-time champion. You say in the current context, he's made it to the finals every year this decade except 2010.
Like if it were the playoffs started now, they would have missed. But why? Not because LeBron James didn't play well, even if he's not what he used to be, but because he missed 18 games. So if he misses another 5 or 10 games, then I don't think it's going to be on him. If he goes all out and he's playing well and he just can't lift this team to the playoffs, then what it could signify is the end of the LeBron James era. I mean, he'll still be, a great player next year and the year after, but it could signify, the end of the LeBron James era. We'll see what happens this summer.
What it will do, Sarah, it will embolden the Durants and the younger guys to say, you know what, the king is still the king, but he might be a little more Mufasa at this point, old Mufasa, but we can get him. That's because there's a fear factor when it comes to playing against LeBron James, and maybe that eliminates if the Lakers don't make the playoffs, even if he plays well. They just say, oh, it's empty stats because you're in a stat-heavy league.
No, a fear factor, though, as there used to be.
No, and by the way,
Golden State.
By the way, Mufasa.
No. From a team standpoint, no. But from a one-on-one, mano-a-mano standpoint, you're not trying to go head up with LeBron James for 48 minutes. Like, you would get embarrassed, short of being Kevin Durant. That's the only guy, I think, that can go head up with LeBron for an entire game for 2 weeks straight. Other than that.
No Kawhi?
Nah. Kawhi's good enough. He's got to be available. He's got load management to worry about.
Well, that's the thing with Kawhi.
Hold on, but Mufasa didn't make it to halfway through the movie. Scar was the one who they got at the end of the movie. Mufasa was the one who Scar killed Mufasa.
I'm still tripping on you not showering, not putting on cologne.
We are too. Vince, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate you being here. Coming up, are the Giants trying to trade Odell Beckham Jr.? That is next on First Things First. You're really up on your Lion King.
I know.
Scar? Where'd you pull that out of?